D.H. Lawrence said that the world does not fear a new idea. More than anything, it fears a new experience. And the experience that we heard today is one that has changed the world as we know it forever. I don't think it's an overstatement to say that this text is telling us the story of something that has transformed our world, perhaps even more than the experience of the early disciples after the resurrection of Jesus. Saul was an Orthodox Jew, a Pharisee who had risen to great prominence, a member of the Sanhedrin, the governmental board of Judea during Roman occupation. Saul had, as a member of the Sanhedrin, been delegated by the temple police to go out and squelch this new sect of Judaism. At this point in his spiritual life, Saul has a very clear idea of black and white, right and wrong, good guys and bad guys, and you better have fallen on the right side, because the good guys were the Jews, and the bad guys was this sect, these people that were calling themselves the followers of the way. And we are told that Saul was breathing threats and murder against the disciples of the Lord. But all of this changes when Jesus Christ leads Saul into liminal space. When before reaching Damascus, the light of heaven surrounds him, and he falls to the ground, and he hears a voice saying, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" And we are told he is blinded by the light and told to go into the city and do as he was told to do. Liminal space. The word liminal comes from the Latin, which means limen, which literally means the threshold. And if you are leaving one room and entering into another, you step through the threshold. And so any time in your life or in our life together where we leave one room or one stage and we are not yet in the next stage, in the next room, anytime we leave behind what was and are moving to what is not yet clear, anytime we leave business as usual behind towards something not yet understood or organized or clear, anytime we find ourselves in that place, we are in liminal space. Most of us don't like liminal space, and we don't go there without something in our lives forcing us to go there. Most of us go there kicking and screaming. Outer circumstances often force an inner conflict, an inner struggle, an inner turmoil, a job change, a job loss, the death of a loved one, a new birth, a new opportunity, death, birth, retirement. These are the circumstances that lead us to a place where we must work through a struggle. And that's where Saul finds himself today. In those spaces, what happens to us is sometimes we get paralyzed. We become afraid and we don't do anything, or we lash out at each other because it is a scary place to be. It's challenging. It's uncomfortable. It's a time of change, a time of transition, a time when we are aware that we are not in control, and there's this sneaking suspicion that maybe we haven't been in control the whole time. We just thought we were. A time when we have to learn patience. A time when we have to be open. We have to cultivate a receptivity to the new thing, which is not yet clear. A time to be open to the new. Throughout the Scripture, God does God's best work in liminal space. The Jews in the wilderness, Mary after she learns she's pregnant with Jesus, Abraham and Sarah who hear a voice calling them in their elderly years to go and leave their hometown to a place that is not yet revealed, Mary Magdalene and Peter at the empty tomb, Jonah in the belly of the great fish, Jesus on the cross. Time and time again we see evidence in the Scriptures, as we do in today's text, that something genuinely new and creative can emerge in and through liminal space, something that can not only transform us, but transform others and ultimately transform the world. But before we dive into this text today, to discover some clues about how we can live more faithfully in liminal space, let me suggest that there's a pattern that's very clear and very universal about this that we're talking about today. It goes by many different names: orientation, disorientation, reorientation, order, disorder, reorder, construction, deconstruction, reconstruction. There's a theme here that we see in so many places in our lives and in our history. As Presbyterians, it ought not to surprise us that we are in liminal space. We are the church reformed and always reforming. That's our motto, and yet it comes into conflict with that other part of us that likes to do things decently and in good order. Do you see the conflict? You see the tension that we're in? As people, as a denomination, as the church. You see, most of us want the express train. We want to just skip over the disorienting, the disorder, the deconstructing phase. We want to get right to the good stuff on the other side. But it doesn't work like that. That's not how transformation works. There's no shortcut to transformation. Now, it's clear to anybody paying attention that we're in a denomination in great decline. We are in a religion that's in decline. The institutional church in America, whether you're looking at giving or membership or attendance or participation levels, the signs are not good. We are in decline, and it seems to be speeding up. It is a challenging and uncomfortable time to be in the mainline denomination, to be a member of the Presbyterian Church. And I can say, as a middle-aged pastor, committed to this denomination, committed to being a leader in the church, there are days when it is depressing. It's a hard time. And sometimes I don't know whether God is calling me to be a hospice chaplain or a spiritual midwife. Is God calling me to help something die well, or to help something new be born? And my sneaking suspicion is it's a little bit of both. And the skill set we need in our leaders today are people who can do both. That's what we need more than anything. And discernment is around the question of what needs to die and what can we help die and what needs to be reborn and how can we help bring that into being again. But it's important to remember that we have been here before. We've been here before. There have been times of reformation. We just celebrated the 500th anniversary. There have been times of reawakening. Times when old structures, old ways of doing things, old forms have died. And new forms have been born. And our scripture today gives us 3 hints. Let me offer 3 hints that I think we find in the text on how we can journey with faith through liminal space. First is we got to acknowledge it. We have got to admit it to ourselves and to each other. We are in liminal space. Secondly, we have to go there. We don't have to, but we're invited to go there in community together. And thirdly, we need to seek the counsel of some wise elders. And they come in many different shapes and sizes, and their voices are out there. So let's take those one at a time. Number one, we have to acknowledge we're in liminal space. We can deny that we're not. We can deny that we're in it. We can pretend we're not in it. We can wish a return to the glory days, but in the end, the 12-step process begins with steps 1 and step 2. Step 1 is to admit that we are powerless and our lives are unmanageable, and to admit it's not working. That's step one. Step two is to acknowledge there's a power greater than ourselves that can restore us to sanity. Steps 1 and steps 2 are the hardest steps to take. And one could argue they're more than half the battle that we face. We need to take those steps. We need to admit that we're in liminal space, that there are no easy answers. There's no magic pill. There's no 3 steps to a transformed church. This is uncomfortable and challenging, and it's probably going to be that for a long time. We may be in the midst of generational shifts, and it may take that long for us to work through this great reformation. So we got to be honest about it. That we don't see where it's going. We don't see what the Spirit is up to. And Saul had to accept the fact that he was blind. He couldn't see the way forward. He had to accept he didn't know what was happening or what was about to happen. He had to accept that there was much that he had to unlearn, much that he had to relearn. Even as a person of good faith, he was blind. And we have to admit that we're blind. That's hard. But that's the only way through the paralysis. Through the fear, which leads to the second point. We can go there together in community. The text says that Saul was led by hand and guided along the way to Damascus. He couldn't get there on his own. He needed help. And we all need help. We need people to help us go to places that we don't want to go, that we're not willing to go right now. We need to be led by the hand. The 12-step program understands it. You can work the steps all you want on your own, but that's not going to work. You got to do it in community. And we need the worshiping community. We need brothers and sisters in faith. We need people encouraging us, holding us accountable, supporting us, leading us through the stage of disorientation, deconstruction, and disorder. We need the rhythms and the rituals and the practices of communal life. We need one another. That's what this partnership is about, I think. We're acknowledging we are stronger together. First Pres and Westside. And while we don't have the power to change the denomination, we have the power to change the way Presbyterians behave and act in Ridgewood. And that's a start. And we can go to that lunch together, and we can talk to each other and start to build relationships, because we can't do this on our own. And that's true of both of our churches and all the churches in our denomination. And here's the thing, we've always been a connectional church, so we're getting back to the basics. How we've always understood ourselves as Presbyterians. And then the third one I think is the hardest. We can seek the counsel of wise elders. The community, as important as it is not enough in and of itself. Even in the 12-step program, there comes a moment, if you're serious about recovery, where you ask somebody to be a sponsor in your life. Somebody who will walk with you. Somebody who you can call at any point, who can be a source of support and encouragement, accountability, and wisdom. And Ananias is that person for Saul. And let's be clear, Saul wasn't happy about it, and neither was Ananias. So it's often somebody in your life who you've probably already dismissed, who may be offering you some wisdom. And God may be tapping on their shoulder and tapping on your shoulder to pay attention to what that wise elder is saying. And Ananias has been a disciple long enough to know that God leads us often to the hard places in the service of love. And because he has responded to God's call in the past, because he knows for himself the way God works, he is faithful to the call to go and be an instrument of healing in Saul's life, so that Saul can be that same instrument for others. And that's how it works. Wisdom is passed on person to person, encounter by encounter. And what we remember is this experience changed Saul forever. It reordered, it reformed, it reconstructed his life around God's grace. And he saw firsthand how religion, even good religion and good religious people, can become a source of evil in the world. Saul began to see how in the name of religion he had become a murderer, and how in the name of love he had become a person who supported and encouraged and was hateful to the other. Can we hear ourselves? Can we see ourselves in this? Where are the places that the Spirit is leading us to stretch and to grow? And what are the hard things we have to see about ourselves? Saul was willing to see how judgmental and hateful he had become. And from this point, his life changes. He becomes the Apostle Paul. He has a very clear focus. He's committed to his own transformation into love and to forming communities transformed by that same love. Communities that change the environments that they were a part of by practicing a better way. And he became committed to critiquing self-serving and immature religion. Every time he saw it, he called it out for what it is. Are we willing to do that for each other? Are we willing to call out the immature, self-serving aspects of our communal life? Saul was willing to do that as he became the apostle, and he was committed to pioneering a more mature and life-changing religion. And here's the mystery. His blindness was the key that opened the door to all. His blindness protected him from himself and his own ego and his own need to put his hands on the steering wheel and try to control the process of transformation, which we can never control. His blindness, our blindness, is the key to the transformation that God has in store for us. It is part of God's mercy to you and to me. Our blindness, strangely enough, is evidence of God's mercy. Our blindness reminds us that we can't see the way. Our blindness reminds us that we need help. We need people to lead us by the hand. Our blindness calls us to ask for help. So when you get in touch with how little you know and how little you see, that's the beginning of an opportunity. And you're in good company. And you're reminded today to keep good company. And you're reminded that you don't have to figure it out all by yourself. And you're not going to figure it out all by yourself. So don't go there alone. Go there in community. Because there is no fast track to transformation. There really isn't. And anybody who tells you there is lying to your face. But something can and will and does happen in liminal space. It turns out that's where God does God's best work. In liminal space. Don't take my word for it. Just read the Bible again and again and again. We see that pattern. The good news is we are already the church reformed and always reforming. That's who we are at our best. So let's get back to being a community reordered, reconstructed, reformed around God's grace. And let's raise up elders and leaders who know from experience the mystery of what God does in liminal space. People who know for themselves that God can do something with blind faith that God can never do with certainty. Are we in the end times of the church? Or are we at the cusp of another great reformation? A reawakening. I prefer to believe that Jesus Christ is not done with us. I prefer to believe that He's doing something new, which, thank God, we can't see. Otherwise, we'd muck it up. Thank God Jesus Christ is not done with us. I believe he's doing something now, something we would never let him do if we were in control. I think Jesus Christ is ready to do something powerful, but we have to acknowledge our powerlessness to do it without him. Clearly, something is dying. And there's much that needs to die. It really does. There's much that does not reflect the gospel of Jesus Christ. There's much that does not reflect the spirit of the early church. And we ought to be at the forefront of helping self-serving, immature religion die. And we ought to help build a church that raises up mature, loving, whole people. So anything that gets in the way of that, we ought to help die unto death. There's much we ought to bury in the ground and have a great funeral for. But there's also something else emerging. And that's where we need to focus our time and our energy and our resources and our passion. Something which, if we're honest, has always been the most essential thing about being followers of the way of Jesus. And have always been the heart of what the early church was about. A church which, by the way, changed the world and has the power to do it again. We need to help the church become a transformed people and a transforming people for the sake of the world. There's much that we have to baptize and wrap in a baby blanket and raise up. Because I believe the truth is that Jesus Christ is not done with us. I think he's waiting on us. I think he's waiting for us. And I think he's waiting to do something with us. And the only question left is, are we ready? Are you ready? Are you willing? Are we willing? Let's pray. Lord, we thank you that your Spirit is trustworthy. And we pray, Lord, that in the quiet of our heart today, we might carry forward with us one truth that might be hard to face, but important to name. And Lord, grant us the courage to be voices of reformation. Help us to do more than criticize the bad. Help us to be practitioners of the better. Help us, once again, to be followers of the way.